Hey guys, so today I want to talk about my 3 favorite tips for dealing with your bank. Banks are a business. When it comes down to it, they prioritize profits. Bank sales reps have sales quotas that they need to meet, and if they fail to meet them, their managers will come after them for missing their targets. So sales reps have every incentive to sell you as much as possible. The bank makes a lot of their money off of fees that you pay from using or holding on to a product. It also makes money from the interest that you pay on outstanding debt. We need to acknowledge that banks play an important role in our economy. They give us a safe place to store our money, and they provide us with loans to invest in ourselves, our businesses, and our communities. But banks have every incentive to sell you products that you don't need or with features that you don't need in order to collect more fees from you. They also have every incentive to give you loans where the interest rate is on the higher end of the spectrum of what they're allowed to charge you. For these reasons, it's so important that when you walk into a bank, you're as educated as possible. So I've got 3 rules that I want you to follow. Rule number 1, never talk to a bank without doing your research first. You should always research the product you're thinking of getting. If you find yourself in a particular financial situation, like, I don't know, you need a student loan or you're getting married and you're trying to merge your finances, research the products you're thinking of getting, or look at how people who are in a similar financial situation structured their finances. What products did they use? Research to understand how a product works before you sign up for it. Understand how credit cards calculate their interest. Know the fees for the checking account that you're about to sign up for. Read the terms and conditions. Never agree to a product you haven't tried to understand on your own first. I really want you to do this because researching helps you know what questions to ask, especially if the advertising on the product isn't super clear, and it often isn't. Oh, there's 0 fees on this checking account. That's freaking great, right? But are there any terms that I need to meet in order to qualify for that 0 fees? Do I need to keep a certain amount of money into my checking account at all times? Do I need to also have an RSP and mortgage with the same bank in order to still qualify for those 0 fees? Asking the right questions helps you avoid surprises later. Rule number 2, never leave with a product you didn't plan on getting. Banks and your sales reps have every incentive to get you to sign up for as many products as possible once they have you in front of them or on the phone if you're calling in. You want to try your best to have a solid idea of what you actually need when you're dealing with the bank in order to protect yourself against sales tactics. I swear by this rule and I follow it literally every time I go into a bank or I call in. I never, ever, ever say yes to a product that I'm offered if it wasn't the product I was originally going in to get. I don't care if a rep just offered me a credit card with 0 interest rate and double the rewards points than my current card. I'll usually say something like, wow, like that sounds amazing, what a great deal, let me think about it and I'll call back later. Usually the sales rep sounds a little disappointed at this point and they'll usually hit me with something like, oh, I can't guarantee you'll get the same deal when you call back. And they're right, like the deal may be gone when you call back. But in my experience, it usually isn't, and it's even less likely to be gone over the span of 24 hours. You need to step away from that sales rep to think clearly and to give yourself a cooling off period to see if you really actually want and need that product. The deal you're being offered may very well be better than the product that you thought you wanted. But it also might have other fees that the rep kind of glossed over when they were giving you that sales pitch. And not realizing that those fees are there could cost you a lot of money in the long run. I guess what I'm trying to teach you is to be skeptical of what you're being offered. This is especially true if you're a visible minority or a woman, because biases exist in banking. I recently published a report on racism in banking. You can find it on my website. It was focused mostly on the Black community, but it applies very much to all people of color. So you want to be very cautious when dealing with a bank. When I walk into a bank, I can tell when the rep sees me as a person or as a woman. But the moment they ask me what I do, and they almost always ask that question for conversation purposes, I say I'm an economist or I'm a money coach. And the entire conversation and their demeanor instantly changes. The conversation is essentially over at that point. Because now, instead of assuming that I know less than them, they're assuming that I know better than them. And so they're not going to try and sell me products that I don't need. But, regardless of who you are, you can't possibly blindly trust somebody's suggestions when their income and performance is so tied to signing you up for those products. And maybe you've seen CBC Go Public's report from a few years ago on banking employees complaining about aggressive sales tactics in top Canadian banks. Well, fun fact, but the government of Canada actually investigated the complaints, and their report found no evidence that banks engage in aggressive sales tactics, which is pretty shocking to me and a little unbelievable. The report was conducted by the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, aka the FCAC, which is the part of government that's responsible for protecting financial consumers and educating Canadians about financial literacy. But the FCAC did acknowledge that bank culture rewards salespeople for selling products, and this can increase the risk of what they call mis-selling to consumers. Okay, here's my last rule. Rule number 3, negotiate and apply pressure. Banks are one of the few places where you can still haggle on the price of something. You might not get the deal you want, but if you're willing to try, you can increase your chances of getting something and saving money. Don't be shy about it either, just ask. The worst thing they can do is say no, and you're probably never gonna see that bank rep again. I've got a couple of ideas to get you started. It's gonna sound a little strange, but don't be afraid to guilt trip. If you're going through a tough financial time, then say so. Are you a student? You should let them know. Have you been a client of theirs for the last 12 years? Tell them that. And then you're gonna ask them for a bit of relief on the fees that you're paying. Okay, second negotiating idea. Comparison shop. It's one of your greatest tools when it comes to negotiating. Is another bank offering a lower interest rate on a product, but you want to try to consolidate your banking and stick to one bank? Show your bank the rate that you found, or just tell them that another bank has offered you a significantly lower rate on the same product. And then ask them to match that rate. Tell them you'd be willing to sign up for the product at their bank if they were able to match what you were offered at their competitor. If not, you'll just go to the other bank. Mention that this other bank also has a zero fee checking account or some other product that could entice you to move other accounts over to your bank's competitor. If they put up a fight, don't be afraid to push them a little bit. You can either walk out and try another branch or hang up the phone and call again and get a different representative on the line. You could accept what they're offering if you experience some kind of intangible benefit to continuing banking with them, or you can take your business elsewhere. It really depends on how much this means to you. The bottom line is, when dealing with banks, do your research. Go in with a plan and stick to it. And don't be afraid to negotiate a little.